The other thing that actually you have to learn to do, and I think this is a skill set a lot of us can learn from Hollywood, is from Pixar, right? So learning to tell your story. Learning to tell stories are actually really, really important. And stated this like many times, sort of in different contexts there's this great story I heard about, was that, Pixar, part of Disney now, they make amazing movies. And and I actually used to work very close to Pixar when my old startup. And what I found out actually at Pixar was that, if I ask, it's hard to do this here, but, when I ask people, it's just like, how much time do you actually think they spend on actual sort of like animation versus sort of like storyline and plot? And I think a lot of people are surprised. They actually spend less than like 20% of their time on actually animating the story. They spend most of the time for each of their movies actually on building out the storyline, right? The plot line, the characters. And that's kind of the same. You have to think about sort of learning to tell your story. That's actually one of the reasons like their movies are so good. Like, why is this relevant to you as your startup? It's actually relevant to you because stories are actually really important. Stories are actually ways to shortcut to get into people's minds, right? Like, and human beings are naturally oriented, sort of absorbing stuff from stories, not from numbers or facts or whatever. Facts and numbers are actually used to back up the story, right? And so a lot of times, I think when you hear these pitches, just like numbers and numbers and numbers and numbers, and you're like, that actually isn't helpful. And one of the secrets, I think, of actually great pitching is actually having a great story. And it shouldn't be any surprise if you think about humans. Humans are actually better oriented actually to sort of absorb lessons from stories, right? That's why fiction usually is just much easier to read than, say, like nonfiction or business. And so that's something the business world can learn a little bit more of, is actually how to tell better stories. And you need to learn how to do that too for your startup.